to our vlog!
Hi guys, I'm Raymond Bacolanang.
I am Shala Blas Coliado.
And I am Hazel Joynes.
I am Juliana Herbito.
And we are
the
Grammar Babies.
Since we are the Grammar Babies, we are going to talk about
Grammar is why we are going to Monkayo College of Arts, Sciences and Technology to find out.
What are we waiting for? Let's go!
Let's go!
now here in
Monkayo College of Arts, Sciences and Technology.
why we are here.
Because for today's video, we will be having our in-depth interview
With one of our best grammar teacher here in Monkayo College of Arts, Sciences and Technology.
So what are we waiting for?
Let's go!
A few moments later.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What are you
Can you hear me
doing?
okay? Oh, I was just watching TV.
Watching TV?
Yeah, watching the news.
Me, I'm here and catering to my mother because my mother is mild stroke. My mother, because my mother is mild stroke.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Say hi to our YouTube channel.
Oh, that's your YouTube channel. Hi everyone, welcome to their YouTube channel, and I'm very glad that I am part of your show today for this episode.
Thank
Yeah.
you, ma'am, for letting us to interview.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The first question, ma'am, is that what is your view about the second language grammar acquisition?
Okay, first and foremost, second language acquisition primarily is acquiring another language. And in the Philippines, we do have our second language, that is English, and we do that. Well, second language grammar acquisition is a package in language acquisition, because when we acquire another language, grammar is always the primary package, primary incorporation. So,
The second question, ma'am, is that what is your opinion about on how grammar should be taught?
for me, there are a lot of ways to actually teach grammar. Primarily, you can have a lot of choices. You can have the traditional wherein it's the three-piece, the presentation, and then the practice, and then the production. As for me, there is no right, there is no appropriate, there is no standard way of teaching grammar. As a teacher, you really have to balance. You really have to look at the learners. What are they comfortable of, and how are they going to acquire it?
What are the challenges and difficulties that students have with grammar?
Students, on the
Yes.
part of the students. Because first and foremost, the very first challenge that students encounter in learning grammar is, for them, it's boring. For them, it's so dragging. For them, it's something that's too complicated, and then they don't want to dig deeper into that because they would have headaches. They would have a lot of headaches. And so, primarily, if we want to really teach the students would somehow resist sometimes, like, we're not going to use this in the future. We can communicate after all using our own language.
In connection to the third question, so what do you do when your students make grammatical mistakes?
Alright, grammatical mistakes are very common, and I experience that, I encounter that almost every day when I do my classes. Now, in the classroom, whenever my students commit mistakes, in speaking, for example, if the students would say, the children plays outside, I don't really interfere immediately, but I do that in a way that they would have to monitor themselves as I monitor them. So, for example, they would say, the children plays outside. I would say, okay, the children play outside. So that's right. And then if the student has this very good pickup, the student would recognize, okay, sorry, mali pala yun. So he would have that pickup or she would have that pickup. So it's more on monitoring the students and letting them become conscious of their mistakes. In writing as well, it's very evident that whenever my students commit errors in or mistakes in grammar in their writing, I would have to really indicate their errors. And so I would always remind them to take notice of these mistakes so that the next time they would not commit the same mistakes again.
For the fifth question, do you think that teaching grammar is important in English subject and why?
Very important because as I said earlier in the previous questions, grammar is the very important component and it should not be taught separately from the language because it's always a part of the language.
Do you think that the component of teaching grammar is difficult compared to other components?
In language, I must say it's difficult because there are rules. When we speak of grammar, it's really all about rules. And before we go into the higher levels, grammar as our foundation should be established first. It has to be strong in its foundation so that when we go up higher, everything will really fall into place. And it's really very important. It's difficult, but it's very important because everything really boils down to grammar.
How long have you been teaching English language? What challenges did you experience in teaching?
Okay, if I'm going to include my teaching the foreign students, the Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans, I would have 10 years in teaching both grammar and literature. It's very challenging, first and foremost, because as a teacher who is also a non-native speaker of the language, I have to be very careful with the rules. I have to master the rules. Plus, it's also very crucial that when I transfer that to my students, there is this different style of reception on the part of the students. They don't receive it the way I want them to receive it sometimes because, of course, for them, it's very difficult. So,
What teaching experience and training did you have in teaching grammar?
a lot so far, but I still want more, but I must say that there are a lot of trainings, especially when I was still teaching in the ESL school, when I was teaching Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. They gave me a lot of opportunities to really enhance my skills in grammar because after all, these students really needed guidance when it comes to grammar. So I had these trainings, and when I was also studying, I also had these subjects that really helped me understand grammar better. So,
According to your teaching experience and training, what are the best methods to teach grammar?
okay, Raymond, to answer your question, I have to go back to the previous answer that I had earlier. As I said, there are always a lot of ways to teach grammar because, again, since it's the focus of language learning, because grammar is the springboard of everything, there are a lot of strategies. And if we're focusing on the traditional way of teaching, we go into the TPs, the presentation, the practice, and the production. But nowadays, we have a lot of strategies that are related to communicative practices. For example, the teacher would give activities and then the students have to discover, meaning to say grammar is integrated. It's always the needs of the learners. Like, how are they going to receive this kind of topic? How are they going to practice this kind of topic? So you can actually mix and match all the strategies depending on the needs of your learners. That's why needs analysis is always important on the part of the learners.
A few moments later.
You have slain an enemy!
The grammar babies have just learned something new today.
See you in the next episode of
The Grammar Babies!
They say, oh my